You are now listening to the Astral Hour. I'm your host, Astral Meadow. Join me as we take a glimpse into the mysterious. Welcome, everyone. Today, I'm joined by Kooch Daniels, co-creator of the Zodiac Light Oracle, Nakshatras, Sun Signs, and Planets. This deck was created in collaboration with her husband, Victor Daniels, who taught psychology for over 40 years at Sonoma State University. Kooch is a lifelong professional intuitive, and together they have studied for more than 2 decades with Harish Johari and Sri Amrit Anandamayi.
Amaritanandamai, Mom. She's the
They
hugging
pre
saint from India.
Oh, beautiful. They previously co-authored Awakening the Chakras. This Zodiac Light Oracle draws from the ancient wisdom of the Vedic rishis to explore the 27 Nakshatras, the lunar mansions of Vedic astrology. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. This is going to be fun.
Yes, I'm so excited to get to chat with you. You have such a beautiful, fun energy. So this will
Until
be,
I turn into the demon.
don't we all? So, for those who don't know you, could you just share a little bit about yourself, your journey, and how you came into doing this kind of work?
Oh, I was born into being weird, as my family used to think I was really weird because I didn't want to follow their religion, and I broke out and became an intuitive and a psychic, and that was very scary to them. Um, Went against everything they believed. So I've been a rebel. But I started at a very young age. I was like 22 years old in front of Ghirardelli Square in San Francisco as a street palm reader, tarot reader. And that was the beginning. And people would think I'd be crazy. And I really tried to do more conventional work. I got a degree as a psychologist, or doing consulting as a psychology major. And I worked in halfway houses for schizophrenics and teens who were kicked out of their homes. So I did a lot of normal kind of work, but the universe kept pushing me to like do psychic readings. And they have a strange way of telling you what they want you to do. And pretty soon I just went, this is what I'm being guided to do. I enjoy it. The doors are opening. I'm getting paid way more than my minimal wage because I was coming in as a psych tech, as more of an introductory role, and the pay was rather not too exciting. And I go, I'm doing so much better as a psychic than as a counselor, or going on that in that more respectable direction. And so I took the wild road and became a psychic, and the universe kept blessing me with work. And if the universe is opening those doors, that means, like, how can you not go? Because you're kind of being pushed in that direction, and the doors are opening and they're very inviting. And I've had a wonderful, blessed life living as a tarot palm reader, astrologer. And what can I say other than it feels like an incredible blessing?
Yeah,
How
it's
can
interesting how you go from, doing more psychological work and holding space for people, and then but that does overlap and comes
it
into
very much overlaps?
because people come
Very
to you and they're a lot of times needing hope, and sometimes they're in, like a desperation, like I need help, I need help. So I feel like it does carry over. It's like the universe gives us these lessons to prime us for the road that we go on, but it ends up being totally different so many times than what we actually initially
Well,
thought.
one,
But
one thing, a lot of people who are afraid of going to therapists, and they don't want to be going to, like the medical path for therapy, they're excited to come to psychics, or they
mhm,
feel like psychics, they just need a little of that kind of strangeness that makes it okay to like bare the soul. And
right.
I mean, I went from being a street artist to I'm working this past month in December. It was really busy working in tech companies in Silicon Valley. So
Mm.
I have doors opening that are very respectable, and you walk in and you're treated like royalty. So it's like I can't complain. It's
Right.
like
Beautiful. So your deck focuses a lot on the Nakshatras. Could you
Yes.
explain a little bit about what are the lunar mansions, the Nakshatras, and then how this differs from the Western zodiac that most people are familiar with?
Well, I can try my best, but the nakshatras, another name is the lunar mansions. So you keep saying lunar mansions. So just to let people know that's another way of calling nakshatras. The term nakshatras is also considered lunar mansions. And there's 27 of them. And nakshatra means star or seeing the light. And so in ancient times, seers would, I don't know if they would just sit and meditate or if they were lucky enough to, like, have UFOs and they could fly high into the sky and see all of these beautiful constellations with massive star clusters, and they would map them out in relation to what they look like. And they would chart how the moon goes through the different follows the ecliptic. In Western astrology, we are solar focused, and people have charts and they get their their sun signs read. But when people are getting Vedic charts, they're getting their moon sign read. The main thing, the main thrust, because there's also zodiac sun sign readings in Vedic astrology, but the main focus is on the moon sign. And so that's where there's the big kind of the separating gap. But the terminology, and when people are reading sun signs or if they're reading somebody's moon sign, we're talking the same language.
Mm-hmm.
Moon signs in Vedic astrology are looked at with a lot of similarity to the mind and how you present your character, your being, your spirit, your soul. But it's through lunar perceptions. And when we do Western astrology, because I grew up as a Western astrologer, I was working in that for several decades before I started doing Vedic astrology. And I was forced into that I was forced into it because I would say, I'm never going to do Western astrology because I live in the West and people relate to it. And everybody I know does Western astrology. But the man who illustrated our deck, Peter Veltervede, who lived in Holland, or his life in Holland, and was very a very honored artist in Holland and in India, as well as he's done a lot of illustrations for Intertraditions books. He and I were going back and forth about how to do our deck that we'd been trying to collaborate on. I started it with our mutual guru who actually connected us together, Harish Johari. And so I was working with him, but then Harish happened to pass to the other side. But before he did, he told Peter, the artist, that connect with that woman. I want this deck to be finished. Mm-hmm. So that's how I met somebody who I never had met, who lived on the other side of the world. It was through a higher being. And that's probably why these cards are actually in physical form, because they've been blessed by Guru Harish Johari, who has a lot of really beautiful books out on chakras and tantra and gemology and numerology and Dharma and all kind of healing and massage and cooking. Anyway, he was a Vedic, he taught Vedic astrology, and I studied with him. I don't know if I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry, but I studied with him for 20 years. So I became more interested in the whole Vedic philosophy and understanding of what goes into it, even though it's like a major lifelong science that can take many, many, many lifetimes to understand. But I got thoroughly magnetically attracted to Vedic astrology. And Peter told me, no, we're not. I think I sent him like 3 different proposals because we would communicate. How do you communicate with somebody who's in Holland and you're in California? It's like online. And I would send him proposals. We can do it this way. And he was so sweet. He'd always give me a lot of insight about what we can do and let him think about it. And I think it was either the 3rd or the 4th proposals where he said, I've been guided. They are telling me what they want, because he spent his life doing paintings of the gods, and he always would go into communication with the gods and goddesses. He says, you only can, they will tell you if you can draw them. For him, it was ongoing communication with the deities that enabled him to like do all these drawings that are on the cards and all the other drawings of the Hindu gods and goddesses that he did. So he told me, he said, you are going to learn Vedic astrology. And I'm like, oh, I've like said I'm not going to do it. And he goes, yes, you are. So, I mean, I was like, I was under like, you want to finish this deck that we've been talking about for like, I think I'd been working on it for several years with Harish before he died. And then Peter and I were talking about it for at least 20 years before we actually like started getting into it and actually doing it. And then it takes a lot of dialogue back and forth. But he told me I'm going to like step it up, and I have, and I absolutely love it. So now I'm, I'm like, yeah, moon signs. It's all about moon signs, which makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense to me at this point.
Yeah, it is a different perspective. I work with Western astrology, but I've had my Vedic chart read a couple of times, and I kind of think they're just two different perspectives of, like looking at yourself from two different angles. And I've deeply enjoyed learning about like my nakshatra or the sign or the lunar mansion that's in, and which I went and found in your deck. It's the one that's connected to the elephant tusk. um, but it's interesting to be open to learning it, because I think as Westerners, it's a different language. You have to be kind of open to appreciating there's like an art to learning about it, and it's a very intuitive kind of language. But I love this deck so much. I've been working with it for a couple months now. You sent me a copy, and it's just so beautifully painted, and it's really helpful, like the way that you break it down. And it's definitely, I have all these synchronicities around it. Like the other day, I was in my records and Yama was the guide for me, but I didn't know who Yama was at the time. And then I pulled the card and
Yes.
it was like Yama. So it's definitely, I feel a connection to the deck that extends beyond that, where it shows up in my outer world too. So I've really appreciated it, and I have so many Oracle decks, but this one is special, and it's been wonderful to work with. So.
Oh, you're making my heart happy.
So, can anybody work with this deck? Even if say they don't know that much about like Hinduism or the deities, is it still open for anyone to explore it or?
Well, they have to be open-minded. And if you're open-minded, because if it's not something that you have grown up with, I'm kind of jealous because people who grow up in India, they get to study this from the time they're like little babies, because there's so many traditions that are interwoven with the nakshatras and Vedic astrology. And us, as for the Westerners, it's kind of like learning a whole new language, and we it takes a while before we can get more hooked into it. If a person knows astrology, the planets and the sun signs that are represented in these cards, they would be completely familiar with everything. The only thing that's totally Vedic that is separate from Western are the 27 nakshatras. So if you already know astrology, you have a firm footing. If you want to learn more about yourself, and most of us do, the cards are 100% for you, because the nakshatras have really good, beautiful images, but they also have really good descriptions. And you can pull cards, any card out of the 48 cards, pull a card a day to meditate and connect more with, what is the guidance for the day, or what card should I meditate on today, and get more of a firm footing of who am I inwardly, because the cards really help a person do deep diving. The dialogue that we have, and I had, just to get the information, was a lot of like, what can we discover about ourselves in relation to the light that comes through this nakshatra or the planets? What can we learn? So it's not just that it's some kind of a symbol, but it's what information, what inspiration, what guidance can we receive? And that information can help business people, conservative people, and people who are more into metaphysics and the occult or oracles. So it just depends on if a person is interested or not in this kind of a symbolic language.
Right.
There's something for everybody, though.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Um, so do you feel like everyone has some kind of connection to their intuition or their psychic ability? Um, do you think that's something that people can kind of cultivate, and maybe even work with the deck to kind of open up to that aspect of themselves?
Anytime a person studies astrology, they're saying, I want to learn more about how to use my intuition, because you're working with symbols. Symbols are the language of the subconscious, and the subconscious is how we pull out intuitive visions or insights. So the intuition is very much keyed into, it could be tarot, runes, palmistry. It doesn't matter. If a person has that kind of a focus, they're opening their third eye to trying to see beyond the logical conscious mind. And if a person is, if they have the belief system that they're not psychic, or if they're afraid of psychics, that gateway is just closed. It's automatically like shut. So they're not going to believe that they can be psychic, or they're going to be like anxious thinking that maybe they're going to have some kind of a insight and it's going to be scary, or they've seen Friday the 13th, the movie Friday the 13th, and they're going to be running from anything psychic. So it really depends on your belief system. But if you believe you are psychic, just having that belief in itself opens up your mind to, like, it's possible. And in the East, psychics are so, everybody believes in psychics. My teacher was, he was so psychic. He would know what's in your mind. I mean, being psychic, I've met so many like really deep mind readers, people that could really see, from my travels in India and working with Indian teachers. I think there's more of a belief that it's possible, and there's uh, more proof in just everyday life that people can be psychic, or we are psychic. So a lot of a person's willingness to use that depends on how they grow up, the conditioning that they have as a child. Children are so psychic, but parents can like really shut that down and say, no, 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 we want you to study calculus. We don't want you to study like, symbols, or believe that you can be psychic. So it's our belief system, but everybody has the ability. Everybody has six senses. It's not just five senses. We all have six senses, but what we do with our sixth sense totally depends on our belief system. If I believe I have it, trust me, it's going to work. I'll see it in my life. If I believe I don't have it, I'm not going to be there.
Yeah, I do
That was the
see.
difference when I was growing up. My family did not want me to believe that I could be psychic. And I was like, yes, I am. I know I am. So, I didn't let them shut me down, and I kept moving in that direction, even though they thought I was crazy. But maybe I am a little crazy. I'm probably a little crazy.
Yeah, I do feel like it is something we're kind of just innately born with, and then it's more of the culture that turns it off. And like you're saying, in these other cultures, it's more embraced, and they're not trying to say, "Oh, that's you're just
Mhm.
making that up, or you're lying, or you're trying to get out of going to school." And you're like, "No, I see." But I think for in the West, it is about almost like taking down the boundaries that we've put on ourselves around it more. But like you were saying, if the fears come up, I mean, you almost have to work through the fear first, because it's just going to keep putting more walls up, because it's like on a soul level, it's like safeguarding you, I think. Because if you're afraid of something, you're not going to have the experience. You're like preventing it. Um,
I think in relation to just, getting readings, people are afraid they're going to see Yama, they're going to see death, or
hmm hmm
find, and that's like a big fear that comes up in a lot of readings around, like, can you see it? And I'm like, I try to like guide people to look at the path that they've chosen to try to evolve or to reach their desires and be more successful. I'm not trying to see when people are going to die.
Right.
A lot of people, unfortunately, they're thinking that that's like, can you see when I'm going to die? And I
Right.
think people don't psychics that. You're just asking for trouble because, you know, when somebody tells you you're going to die at a certain age, you're going to be like all hyped up about it. And, you know, it's like self prophecy. We're
Right.
creating our life through what we believe. So, you know, you don't want to have some other person like dump some weird data on you that's totally random. And
Right.
leaders are not deities, and we don't really know when somebody's, well, Vedic astrology, they can, especially the higher masters, they always, like Harish, my spiritual father, who very connected with channeling, getting this happening from the other side. And I truly have had messages from the other side that make me know that, you know, if it wasn't for my teacher, this would have never happened. But he was told by his guru when he was going to die. So he knew as a young man how long he had on the planet. And the guru was also willing to give him a mantra because his lineage was something like 2,000 to 5,000 years that they could trace back how long, you know, how long people had been passing on this wisdom and the information that he so openly gave to the West through his writing and his teachings around the world, as he would travel around the world, teaching all of this stuff. His teacher said he would give him a mantra that would help him overcome death and that he could live longer. But the mantra couldn't stop the karma or whatever. He would have some kind of a physical handicap and his life would not be the same. And my teacher just said, no, I'm just going to go when I'm supposed to go. So
Right.
The higher the being, the higher the level of collective consciousness and owning or understanding how our souls are all linked together, when you really understand that, you know, you can diminish the ego and become more one with all, that people have higher understandings, which can include understanding when you're going to die or knowing ahead of time, you know, what's going to be happening. And I think that kind of stuff, when it gets into ordinary folks that don't have that higher consciousness that the gurus have, you know, we might mishandle some of that. And I think, for example, I had a 16-year-old come up to me and he shows me his hand because I was doing palmistry at a grad night. It's been so fun connecting with young people about being a palm reader. I could be like 50 years old talking to 15-year-olds and like love me because, you know, talking about what's going on in somebody's hand. But a 16-year-old told me, do you see it? Do you see it? I'm going, what do you want me to see? And he goes, don't you see? I go, I don't know what you're wanting me to see. And he goes, another reader told me I'm going to die when I'm, you know, like 22 or something. And I go, oh, you know, please don't believe things like that because people, you know, I mean, maybe they're sensing something in their own life. Maybe their own child is going to die at 22, but they're projecting it on you. I mean, who knows where that comes from? But never let somebody else like put some kind of a destiny on you that you don't want to accept or that's not kind. Because we create our own destiny. The more we believe in something, the more we bring it. It's like our thoughts are like magnets that bring things to us. That's what the power of visualization or setting intentions is all about. You know, as you believe, so you create. So you don't really want to stir up trouble and create really like fear for people that they have to live with every day or tell them they're never going to get married. Having told people I'm reading for that they're never going to get married, I go, oh my gosh, what? Why not believe you're going to get married instead of that you're not going to get married? If you're going to have some stranger tell you something, you know, just, you know, you can have an open mind, but don't accept everything unless it really feels like it fits. But don't live with the fear and that's why people are afraid of psychics because people can say things that maybe they think they're doing somebody a favor, but it really hurts the other person. So they hate psychics.
Right. Yeah, there is, some ethics I think involved in this type of work. I mean, you have to meet the person where they're at, and if they want that kind of information and they're asking certain questions that are leading you to that, I mean, it's different because they're prepared for it, I think.
No,
But
they're
you don't
not.
just give unsolicited, stuff to people. I've had a couple people that thought they were about to die, and then the transit crosses over and they're still alive, and I'm like, see, and a lot of
Probably a
times, like,
rebirth. It's better to go rebirth, you
that's
know.
how
You're gonna
I view it.
rebirth,
Yeah, when I saw
transformation.
Yama, I was like, I didn't think I was gonna die, but I have Pluto transiting my first house right now. So I understand that, there's a lot of transformation going
Transformation,
on.
rebirth, evolution. This is one of your most powerful times to grow.
Right.
And my teacher, Harish, who is very connected with this, as I keep bringing his name up, he said, just, there is no death. We just keep
Right.
going. And so he's done a lot of work where he will not even bring death into it whatsoever because he didn't believe in death. But
Mm,
he had been assigned like a date when from his teacher when he would die, but he'd go, there's no death. We just
right.
keep going. You finish one
Yes.
life, you start another. It's just like we just keep going.
Yes, that
That's
is
what I
the
like
beauty
about
of it.
Hinduism. It's not heaven and hell, and we're stuck in purgatory or whatever forever. It's like no, you just like move from one body to another, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember hitting a point where past lives were just a thing. And I'm like, of course, it makes so much logical sense. I mean, that we would continue and that we would also come back to work on some of these challenges that maybe we didn't overcome in a lifetime. And maybe even some of our gifts would be, you know, we could bring them forward and we don't lose everything. I mean, I think some things we forget, but it's still there, with us. And I think some of these gurus just have this ability to kind of connect to their other lifetimes and all that information that they've been acquiring for all these incarnations are still accessible, but I think all of us have that kind of blueprint within us. And, it's just a matter of being able to access
The
it.
soul blueprint. It's like what's in your soul. What is soul?
Right. So what do you feel is, the difference between imagination and genuine intuition? Um, and how can people kind of trust that what they're receiving, is spiritual, when they're getting these kind of impressions or the soul kind of guidance?
I think paying attention to the feeling behind it.
Hmm.
Well, there's a left brain and the right brain, and the left brain is the logic, and the right brain is the intuitive or the creative. And the meeting in the middle is where the third eye is. So it's kind of like when we meet in the middle, we have some logic that's helping us understand how to read our intuition. It's not like you're only intuitive and creative and imaginative when there's no logic. I mean, both parts of the brain exist and they do meet in the middle. My teacher would say, when you can vibrate the energy between them right in the middle, you're going to expand your you're going to open your eye. Your third eye is going to become more open because that's what it takes. You don't just live in this side or you don't just live on this side of the brain. You've got to like get them to work and make them connect in the middle. So that was the wisdom of Harish, or what I remember what he told me. So we have to learn through experience, I think, because how can you tell somebody, this is not your imagination. This is some fantasy, or this is, this creative idea isn't really good because you're using too much imagination, or you're intuiting something's going to happen, but how do you know it's really real? I mean, the only way that you can really kind of figure out how do you work with these non-logical energies, or the things that come through your senses, like clairaudience where you hear something, or clairsentience where you feel something, or clairvoyance when you see something. It's like, how when something comes to you, it's like, how do you know that it's real? You have to learn to work with your own energies, and the more you can like just be with it and breathe with it, or breathe into it, so that you can feel, is this like authentic, is this real? So it's not like somebody can tell you, it's more like you telling yourself. So it's really having to let your inner spirit or your inner guides or your angels kind of like flap their wings around you and make sure that you're feeling protected and that you can trust what's coming to you and feel how it feels. It's
For
just like,
sure.
what was, do you remember your dream from last night?
I don't know if I remember mine from last night, but I do remember my dreams very often.
Do you have a significant one you can share with us?
Well, this is, I guess, kind of a prophetic symbolic dream that just recently happened to me. But I had a dream the other day that I was bit by a snake. And I sat with that dream, and a day later I took a case for a client because I'm a homeopath. And as I was investigating it, her remedy was lachesis, which is made from the poison of a snake energetically, right? You're not actually giving them poison. But I sat with that and it took me a little while and I went back and I was like, oh my God, the snake visited me before I even had the consult with her. But it was almost like this validating, like I repertorized it. I took her case very logically and it ended up being lachesis. And I was like, that snake visited me before I ever sat down with that person. And it showed up very symbolic. And at the time, it didn't make sense. So a lot of times I think for me, the intuition and the dreams, I don't always jump to try to understand them. I just am like, okay, snake bite. Let's sit with that for a little while. And it made more sense in retrospect. And then I was like, oh, okay, that's very symbolic. And, I do think spirit speaks to us in so many ways. It's just some of us, I think, are more aware and we're able to make the connections more easier because we do trust our intuition, you know?
Well, the snake, it's like the end of the year of the snake, right? So
Right.
this feels like something's being, you're needing to process something from before, things change or there's some kind of process going on that's very relevant. And I pulled a card for your dream and it's Venus. So there's a
Ah,
card
about to
of
have my
Venus
Venus return.
and Venus is very much the love that you give in your work.
Mm,
Because if you're looking at card, you can look at cards spiritually, mentally, logically, or romantically, emotionally, or physically for your physical body. So you can read cards on all kind of different levels.
hmm
And if you get into Vedic astrology, there's so many different avenues that you can come into. Like, is this marriage going to work? Am I on the right path? But for reading dreams, if I just wanted to pull a card for your dream symbols and the snake, so I just pulled a card for you just to show you. And the card that comes up is connected with Venus, which is joy. And to really see how the outcome of the remedy that you gave brought your client more inner peace, harmony, and joy. And you brought Venus love energy into her life. And that, here you are talking about it, and like Venus is smiling on you, and you're smiling to the world. And there is just a connection with love in that dream. So if I was going to pull a card for your dream, it would be all about there was some kind of an emotional or romantic release in the remedy that you gave.
mm,
And I would start looking at is she going through some kind of a romantic release or
hmm
a situation where she's like needing to do a cleanse or
hmm
cleanse attachment or release from her emotional attachments.
hmm
So I would try to like bring in a card in relation to a dream with a client. So I mean, there's so many ways you can use cards
Right.
to see how the cosmos is trying to point to different possibilities in relation to whatever it is you're working on in life.
Right.
And
Well,
it
it's
can be
interesting.
subconscious or conscious.
Yeah, now that you're saying this, because later, so I think it was 2 days ago, I wasn't asleep, but I had this vision of myself like floating in this kind of swamp, but it was very dark and there was like molted snake skin that had risen. And then I was devoured at this point and consumed by a snake. Um, for the snake, the serpent from the Norse myths was what came to me. But I was in
Are
the
you a
belly of the
Scorpio?
snake. No, I'm an Aries
Ah,
sun. In Vedic, I'm a Pisces sun. But yeah, I have Neptune conjunct my moon in the 12th house, so I have a lot of visions. But anyways, it's funny that I'm talking to you because I'm like, well, that other dream could have been about me as well, but at the time, I had to have this other vision to connect it back to me. But yeah, I was consumed by a larger serpent, not a snake, or it was like a dragon kind of thing. And then I was in its belly, and I was very aware that I would have to wait there for a little while and be reborn. But I'm about to go into my first house perfection year, and it's going to light up Venus in my first house, which is conjunct my ascendant in my north node. And then I'm going to have my nodal return. So Venus is going to be huge for me coming up. So it's funny that you drew that card in relation
little
to
synchronicity right here.
so
It's like,
many.
there's so many. It's like the universe going, tell her Venus. It's all about love. Let her follow her heart. She needs to
Yes.
connect more with the goddess of love, beauty, art, imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Humanities, tell her to go dancing. Venus is all about enjoying life and having fun and dancing and singing or writing songs or poetry, whatever. So use your creativity. In my sense, if you're being consumed by a snake or finding yourself in a serpent's belly, that is so archetypal for the power of the feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the myth of you're going to be regurgitated into a stronger form of your true self, or your
Mm-hmm.
soul is going to become more your dominant theme. So my sense is your path is going to be, I mean, if you think about the snake shedding its skin and it's a symbol of transformation and evolving to the new, there's a lot to look forward to
Mm-hmm.
by your dreams and connecting with the snake energy.
Yes, because I also think about like the Kundalini with
Ooh,
serpents, and I think in our culture we villainize snakes, but in other cultures, snakes hold all sorts of deeper symbolism outside of being afraid. But I did initially, I'm like, oh God, this snake just bit me. And I recall the second vision where I was floating in the water. I wasn't actually afraid at that point. Where the first dream I had a little more fear, I think, around it and was surprised. But I remember just floating and saying, I can't fight this, so I'm just gonna allow. And so it was like a stepping stone to the next stage of the with the vision. So,
it's like the birth channel, it's water. So it's like you're
hmm
coming through the birth channel to becoming more aware and more in touch with who you're who you're becoming and how to use your intuition more, or how to just channel that serpent that is the symbol of wisdom, or the kundalini that is your ability to break through the mundane reality and reach for higher consciousness.
hmm
That's a very good dream. I love your dreams.
I'm glad you say that because Yama shows up, you're like a little intimidated. So,
Well, I'm if you think of it translated into rebirth and
right.
and opportunities to awaken to new visions. It's like things don't stay the same when you have Yama hanging around.
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
and it's unpredictable because you don't know on what level you're going to be forced to grow and to leap into the new, because it's the rebirthing into the new.
hmm Right.
So your perceptions are going to evolve. That would be my interpretation.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for doing that little mini reading for me. That was beautiful. I really resonated with your interpretation of it all. And I did think about it as a womb at one point, the darkness, when I was in like the swamp.
When I heard you
Um,
floating in the water, I kept getting like, oh my gosh, she's going through the birthing canal. There's something
right.
happening.
Yeah, that was beautifully connected to kind of how I sensed it, almost like the dark goddess, like because like it all happens in the darkness, like the way, like when you're in the womb, it is dark. You can't, the baby is not like seeing anything while it's in there. It is darkness, but it's an energy of creation
Or
that's
maybe they're
existing.
seeing everything.
Right. Well, maybe, yeah, because they're used to maybe a different level of perception.
Well, a
So,
trusting intuition, I keep getting that you need to find a mandala and have like a crystal mandala
mm,
energy that either you keep nearby to help you work with the energy that because you're shifting gears. You're at a place of shifting all of the symbolism of your first chart and your first house and your 12th house. It's kind of like the beginning and the end. The 12th house
hmm
is the last sign, the last house on the zodiac wheel, and the first house is number one. So you've got like the beginning and the end, and like you're kind of like moving between those two, and there's so much stuff happening, and
yeah.
planets moving through beginnings and endings. So this is going to be an amazing time for your growth. And my sense is to really, whatever kind of soul enlightening symbol that you can relate to, or that if you find a mandala or a mantra or crystal, and if you can even combine those kind of things, and then just keep to reminding yourself when you're working with your own inner work or others, that you've got this magic time. This is a really important time for you to kind of like pop and to
hmm
like rise to a new level and a new perspective. And if that if you can find a symbol that can help you remember that when you're working on stuff that could be like a little, what am I doing here? What is this birthing that I'm supposed to be doing? If you have little things that can point, or a vibrational frequency, because stones have frequencies, that they're all about the magic of energy.
hmm
And there's a Harish book called Gemology, or The Power of Gems, Harish Johari. I highly recommend it, because there's all the magical numbers that go with the gems. So if you can
hmm
work with some kind of like a magical symbol that makes sense to you, to help point to, how can I like really trust my intuition, or how can I trust this energy that's coming to me, or that I'm going to pull the right card.
Right.
So I just kind of feel like I keep getting, it's supposed to be with Mercury. Do you know where Mercury is on your chart? I keep getting
Yep.
Mercury.
Mercury's conjunct my sun in Aries in the third house in my chart.
She's supposed to be writing a book.
I do have I've been working on a flower essence oracle deck, but it's so like nebulous right now. But that would be interesting because it's very Venusian with the working with the flowers, and I had
Well,
this vision of it
Mercury
being
in your
poetic.
third house is communication. It
hmm
doesn't have to be like a super long book, because Mercury in the third house is like, it can be a booklet, or it could be a coloring
Right.
book, or it could be a journal. But I can't help myself. I go into these places. But so your Mercury third house connection is very much the message is going to come through, and you can get it out into the world. You should be trying to get it out in a broader
Mhm.
sense, not just on your podcast, but on your, it's like you've got a message that can really be healing and helpful, and you're going to find more ways to like get it out there.
Okay, I like this. I have been also working on a book of poetry, but I have just not. I don't know when it's over, you know? It's like you're always writing more poems. It's like when do you say, okay, that's enough for book one of poetry. So I don't know. That
Never
is
enough.
encouraging. Yeah, that's encouraging that working with Mercury is beneficial for that. And
Well, Mercury is also the healer.
uh-huh.
And
hmm
even in these cards, the first card, Ashwini, is healing. And it's very connected with the power that we have to heal others. And my
hmm
sense is like one, it's the number one, which is the power of beginnings. And if you plant the seed deeper within your subconscious, that this is something healing and being, if there's new growth or new perspectives or whatever your cycle is that you're entering, that try to set an intention. I mean, for me. I don't want to tell other people what to do,
No,
but
I
it
appreciate
might
it.
it might be the power of whatever it is that you're maybe it's writing more poetry or like coming to a place where you can actually like put them all together and like feel like, okay, I can put these out instead of just
Mhm.
like, but because we were talking about beginnings, Ashwini turning the wheel, getting things started, and really they're the healers and the energy to move on horses. They're horseback riders, and the symbol
Mhm.
is the horse, which is like movement and progress and advancement and kind of like getting this. If you're into symbolism and diving into the subconscious, becoming more playful, not playful, because they were channeling the wisdom of the gods. And that's what Mercury does in Roman mythology, the caduceus. It's all about channeling the wisdom of the gods. So my sense is your Mercury in your third house and where your planets are transitioning in your first house. You said Pluto in the first house. It's all
Mhm.
about a new awareness of yourself and what you're capable or what kind of potentials you want to develop more or skills you want to powerhouse into like using more. And um, because you're connecting with Venus on a higher level and symbolism on a higher level, it's all about doing the healing of the global consciousness.
Mhm.
So I applaud what you're about.
Yes, I love it. Pulling Venus, it helped, anytime she shows up, I'm like, okay, it's
You
not
can
gonna be
breathe easy. She
like
only
there's gonna
loves
be some
love.
beauty, yeah, and some love, and it's gonna have some nourishment with it
She
and not
never
just
she
be
doesn't like to do the housework so much though. She's,
right.
she's to
I,
like, let's just create and have fun here and enjoy.
right.
It's all about I call her like the hedonistic goddess because she's like she doesn't want to do the stuff that's not so fun. But if it's
Hmm.
fun and creates beauty, harmony, good relations, intimacy, good connections, it's all about it's all about making a bigger creative commitment to letting your imagination flow
Hmm. I love that.
and
I love
even growing in self-love. It can be the love you're doing for and giving to others through your healing work or your flower essences, but it can also be like really like making a commitment that you're going to honor that there's love within that is nurturing and creating something really alive within you that is a solid foundation and it's your rooting to the earth. So, it can enable you to grow with more confidence and more ease.
beautiful.
Didn't know this was going to be a reading for you, did you?
I like it. I actually really appreciate it. It's like I get some tips and people get that live action kind of energy of how to work with you and understand how you just
Well,
applied the card
they see
to.
how it works because you bring up cards and all of a sudden it's like just a train of like what goes with this card and
Right.
looking at where the planets are in your chart.
Right. It
But I
all lines up.
do you have anything aspecting your seventh house just because it's opposite the first house and you've got Pluto, which is growth, a lot of growth within yourself, how that might
Uh,
affect your seventh house?
I don't know if my seventh house is Leo, and the only thing I have there is my south node. So I don't know of anything transiting Leo right now, or activating my seventh house, but I always think about the axis of Aquarius and Leo because of the nodes. It's constantly back and forth, and my kids I have a Leo son and my actual son, not my son's sign. And my daughter's an Aquarius, so I'm like they're always lighting up that axis for me, and I'm very aware of the nodes. So
Oh, well, there's always more to learn with the nodes though, because they're unpredictable
hmm.
and you never know what's going to come. Uh, there is a lot of acceleration. If you have nodes in the first and seventh house, because the first house is the self and the seventh house is, partnership or soul commitments. So they're opposite when you're looking at the placement on the astrological wheel. And so those two houses are going to kind of be lit up for you.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that if you have your nodes sitting in those houses natally, I would look at what's aspecting that, because that's going to be kind of a signal of like opportunities to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do have my nodal return in 2026 as well. So that'll
Ah,
I've got my Venus return coming up here soon. Then I get my nodal return a little bit into the year. It feels so big. Like everything feels so big. And even in the Chinese astrology, I'm a horse. And then it's like the
the
year of the
year
fire
the horse is
horse, but
coming
I'm an
up.
Aries, so I'm a fiery girl. I don't know. I'm just like this year's big. I don't know exactly how big it's gonna be, but everything you're saying has been connecting some of the dots that I'm like intuitively sensing. So it's nice to get that confirmation from somebody that can be like, yes, this is on the horizon.
When I try to intuitively envision what's happening on your chart, Mercury just keeps doing almost like a vibrational jumping up and down. And
Mm,
I just feel it's there's going to be a lot of power that comes through your voice, or however it is that you communicate, even through your poems or getting poem out there, or whatever your message is. It's going to be more amplified. There's going to be more possibilities for your message to be heard.
mm,
And I would just really try to key into green and emerald energy, or the color of emerald, because that's like Mercury loves green, and is the gem is emerald. And I would try to like see what you associate with the planet Mercury. I would pull out the Mercury card out of your deck that you have. I would
okay.
set Mercury somewhere where you could like check in with the symbolisms on Mercury, which
Hmm.
it would take me a minute to go through these 48 cards to find the card of Mercury, but it's in here somewhere. And I would, that's how I would possibly use this deck too, is using it for like, oh, well, here I have the Star of Might and Mega that I just pulled for the moment. So I would pull out a card that's meaningful and try to look at it, set it somewhere for a while, not just for an hour or not just for a meditation, but like have it where you can walk by it for a while and have a dialogue with it and ask what the message is for you and how. But because I intuit Mercury so strongly, when I try to intuitively see your chart, I would pull out Mercury and try to work with learning more about what is Mercury and how you relate to it, and what messages that you might find by connecting with the symbolisms on the card,
Hmm.
and how can that help you grow, or what is the message you want to be giving to the world,
Right.
and work with learning more about Mercury. But you
Right.
can do that with each planet. And that's also, these cards can be tools for learning. They can help you learn about the planets or the sun signs or the moon signs.
Hmm.
And that's another way to use this deck. Every once in a while, I have to like, oh, this is deck. We're supposed to be talking about the deck.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, this deck is so good.
Well,
And I have
stop, but we don't have to do much. I actually am really enjoying connecting on, what's happening in your dreams and in your chart.
well, I think it's good. It kind of shows the way that the deck is can kind of
Useful.
inform and add to, say you have an intuitive hunch and now you're pulling a card and it does either confirm or maybe give you a little extra something to work with. But yeah, I love this deck. I love just going through it and just reading about it all because I've always enjoyed the Vedic mythology. But sometimes it's hard, it's overwhelming. But if you're just doing one card at a time, it's like easier to kind of integrate some of the symbolism that comes forward in these mythologies. So you do such a good job.
If you do one card a day, it's less than 2 months,
Right.
because 2 months is 60 days or 61 days. And so it's like within 2 months, you can have a better, much more in-depth understanding of astrology with a very
Mhm.
short self-guided tour of the planets and the signs and the the course that the moon goes through in a month, and it you can just have a much better sense of what's out there in the cosmos. What are they talking about? What do they tell me? How am I guided by the stars and the planets?
Yeah. And so you have some of the cards are the Nakshatras, and then some are connected to the zodiac signs, and
Mm-hmm.
that's blended in there. And then some are connected to the planets. So you are able to get that kind of combination
And when
of
you're doing
some.
Vedic astrology, you use all of those.
Hmm.
And if when you're doing Western astrology, we're just focused on the sun signs and the planets. But if you can open your mind to the moon signs, it just opens up a whole level of lunar reflective understanding of how does the moon move. And there's so much magnetism. I mean, we're mostly water, and think about the oceans and the ocean waves being so strongly affected by what is happening with lunar frequency or vibration or the magnetism of the moon. So moon energy is so important to all of us. And
Right.
if we like root vegetables, moon is what gives the root vegetables the energy at night to grow. The shade vegetables, or I mean,
Hmm.
there's just so much moon energy that the menstrual cycle, the woman's feminine cycle, it's all about lunar energy. So to open ourselves more to understanding how the moon moves through the constellations, it just opens us to being more lunar solar, because when you look at the chakras, the energy that goes up the spine is solar and lunar. We're not
Right.
just solar, we're not just lunar, we're not just right hemisphere, we're not just left hemisphere. It's all sun and moon all the way through our body. And every cell has a positive, negative energy,
Hmm.
electrical current that creates a charge. So it's all about combining the sun and the moon. It's not just moon, it's not just sun. We're being strongly enlightened by both the light of the moon and the light of the sun.
Right. Yeah. And I do think the sun and the moon just, we look up and see them every day. So there, some of the other planets I think are harder for people in the because they can't see it, but we see the moon, and we see the sun, and so connecting with those two, it does, illuminate a lot in your psyche to try to make sense of them. When I'm teaching people about the sun, I'm like, well, what do you feel when you go out and look at the sun? And it's so easy to connect. And it's the same with the moon because they can see it. So they actually can kind of intuit a little bit about the essence because it's visible, to our conscious mind. We can actually look at it and say, what does the moon mean for me right now, and like tune into her essence. But yeah, learning about the moon and the chart is so essential. I think that's what sold me on astrology actually, because I was like, how is there so much information here about my past and my childhood? And it helped me make so much more sense about my journey, by learning about the moon, where the sun, just kind of easily accessible to me. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But the moon was really enriching for me. So I love that this deck connects me more with the Nakshatras and learning more about these lunar mansions. So I do deeply appreciate and honor the work that you've done in bringing this creation forward, and how much time was dedicated and how many people worked together to make this deck happen.
Even from the other side.
Right, it's beautiful. And you can sense it in the cards. I mean, they're just so magnificently potent and enriched with a lot of wisdom. So you guys did a great job bringing this
Well,
deck
thank you so
forward.
much. Really appreciate that. It's very
Yeah.
kind. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's
So
been wonderful chatting.
yeah, it's been wonderful chatting. So for those who would like to purchase this deck or follow you or connect with your work more, how can they find you, or how can they purchase the deck?
Uh, the Oracle deck is available online and it's at bookstores. And Inner Traditions, the publisher, would love to send people copies.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on this podcast. We really appreciate you. I know the audience will love you and your work. So thank you so
And
much.
I love everybody, love to everybody, and especially to you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so
And
much.
good luck with your work. You've got great things happening.
Thank you. I loved your reading with me. That was beautiful. So thank you for that.
Mm.
And thank you all.
Enjoy, and may your future be bright and full of starlight.
Mm, well,
That's
thank you.
full of nakshatras.
Thank you. And thank you all for tuning in. Check us out next time on the Astral Hour.